You are listening to the Serra High School podcast, your connection to the scholars, the athletes, the men of faith, the men of humility, the Serra Padres. Hello, and welcome to our first Serra High School podcast. This is very exciting. Thank you for being here, Principal Charlie McGraw.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Well, my name is Amy Strain. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications here at Serra, and this is the first of a series of podcasts that we hope to produce to highlight the happenings at Serra High School. From our halls to our classrooms, on our fields and in our auditorium, we hope to spotlight all of the exciting things that our Serra Padres are accomplishing on campus and in the world. So I appreciate you being here to answer a few questions for me.
No, I mean, it's really exciting. I'll balance my excitement with a little bit of nervousness. I'm used, I think, to speaking in public in large spaces, large auditoriums, and having the crowd to read and draw energy. So a podcast for me is a very different style. So I apologize in advance, ask for patience. But this is just a wonderful opportunity to be a little more casual, probably, and sit back and just, talk about Serra
High School. That's great. Well, we appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. You've been here at Serra with us since 2019, which has been quite a pleasure. We're so happy you're here, but it's been all but normal, right?
It's been all but normal. Interestingly enough, I had a conversation this morning with one of my colleagues in the building, and it's about 3 years ago that I made a visit to Serra High School. I was living in Madison, Wisconsin as the Associate Superintendent for Accreditation and School Improvement, and the opportunity came to visit Serra. And I think it's in the same cold snap they're having there now
oh, gosh.
that they had 3 years ago when I woke up in the morning and it was like minus 50 with the wind chill and all of those things. And I was getting ready to fly out here to meet, various members of people at Serra. And I arrived in at the airport in California, like, oh my God, it's not minus 50. It's so nice. So it's almost 3 years to the date where today it's sunny and warm. It's beautiful. And it's just great to kind of be here at Serra High School. And you're right. It's been an amazing, 2.5 plus years, going on 3 years, all of which is anything but normal.
Unpredictable.
But that's what makes it fun, engaging, unpredictable, and life-giving, which some people say, how can you function in an environment where nothing is ever normal? But it is normal because this is the world we live in. And so one of my mantras is, what is it like to be in these roles and for our boys and their families and their lives in this very real and lived experience? Because you can't make this stuff up.
Absolutely. I mean, these life lessons, I tell my kids, it's about the pivot, not the plan these days, right? It's like how we react to it a little bit.
We planned really, really well. I think we pivoted even better. So those are some really good catchphrases because sort of in a very humorous way, I think most of us who are involved in education, whether that's high school, elementary, middle schools, or we work in these populations, we are very popular at Christmas parties, at holiday parties, or at any kind of social event because we start talking and telling stories, and people are like, that's not true. I'm like, oh yeah, it is. Or these things happen, right? And so there is for those of us who have made a career or who were currently in these roles, whether administrators or teachers and parental involvement and all that other stuff, there is a blessing and a uniqueness to it that you quickly learn this is either for you or it's not for you, and both outcomes are good. So, when I arrived here in July of 2019, I don't think I fully had experienced what it would be like to be here at Serra. And what I mean by that is moving out to California, being in an all-boys environment, and I hadn't done that in 24 years, being in a single-gender school, and then to be here at Serra, to see the normality of it all, which I've kind of edited down to kind of say there is an organicness at Serra that in my 20 plus years experience in leadership roles, there's a uniqueness to Serra that the community and the population, the teachers, the students, the faculty, the parents, the families, the alums, they get it, and the opportunities and the challenges in that is this, and I promise I won't talk about it too long, but it's such a real and lived experience, and it's so organic and it's lived. The challenge with that is to articulate that to those who are seeing it from the outside, but haven't had the opportunities to actually live it, breathe it, and then own it. Mm-hmm. And that's the real uniqueness of Serra. So like, again, going back to saying it's been anything but normal, but for us, it is normal because it is sort of a real and lived experience. I think that that's the uniqueness of Serra as well.
That's great. I mean, I think that, and you know, I mean, that's why I'm so happy you're here today, is to you know, so we can deliver these messages to people, because it is something that, you know, that you do, that you live and you see, and we've come to know as tradition, even, you know, no matter, you know, just, you know, with all of our rhetoric about Serra, you know, the tradition of Serra and stuff.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you to Serra? I mean, having, like you said, you didn't know much about it, except, of course, you know, single gender Catholics, you know, boys' school.
You know, a great question. I would say the opportunity presented itself. Obviously, I was aware that Serra was going through some, you know, hiring practices and some administrative changes. I was very kind of settled and happy where I was, doing stuff for school improvement, for accreditation, for looking forward. You know, what does Catholic education look like in systems, having worked in various roles in Texas and Alabama over the last kind of 20 years. And so I received a phone call from one of the agencies, and they said, have you ever thought about moving to California? Or there's an opening for principal at Serra High School. And I'm like, you know, I'm kind of settled where I am, you know, more into to be honest, to be in a 40-hour week, not a lot of, you know, stuff outside of the 9 to 5 kind of routine. But I still had a curiosity. You know, and so I said, sure, why not? If nothing else, it would get me out of Madison in February and get me out to San Francisco or to Northern California and to see it and live it. And up to that point, I'd never been in Northern California. I had been to Southern California. I'd been to LA a number of times, but I'd heard of, you know, the San Francisco and the Peninsula, and, you know, the tech boom, and, you know, the home of, you know, the big Silicon Valley, the big 5 skyscrapers and all that stuff. But I think maybe internally, you know, there was something I'm like, this is an opportunity to grow and be part of something that I really hadn't experienced since 1999 when I worked at an all-boys high school in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Again, all things being equal, it was, with the wind chill, was minus 50 in Madison, and I'd had a couple of conversations, obviously, about Serra, done some research, and I said, let's see what happens. So flew out, arrived, quickly got it, you know, oriented into all the environments, and I forget who I formally met first. I don't know if that would have been Dr. Thornton in his role transitioning from principal to president, or some of the other people along the way. But I was curious about it, and I was open to it, and flew out. And then, you know, there was lots of conversations that happened back and forth. And then I think it flew out a second time, probably. And then the more I sat with it, to be honest, in private, talked it over, it was a chance also to be closer to some of my father's family or relatives, or my aunt who lived in Sacramento. So it was a little bit of like being closer to family the older I get, but also to be part of Serra, to be living in the Peninsula area, and to have a new challenge, new opportunity, step into the principal's role, which I'd done previously for, you know, 10 or 15 plus years, but to come out to be part of that here in California in the, I don't know how to say this, but, you know, in the myth of what California is, and then in the reality of working at Serra High School and the legacies and the legends of all that and the myth of all that, maybe, and then be part of it. So when I arrived and, you know, everything got, you know, finalized and arrived in July of 2019, I haven't looked back. That's First great. Of all, because there hasn't been time.
Yeah, right.
You know? And it's just been, I mean, it's been, I feel as principal, just an honor and a privilege even to sit in the office and the seat and the responsibility of that, because it's such an honor. It's fun. It can be a little crazy sometimes, in a good way. But it's just so fun. So here I am, 2019 bag and baggage, arrived to be the 12th or 13th principal, Sarah?
Yes.
To be part of that legacy.
Right?
And here we go, y'all. Here we
So,
go.
so when you got here, I mean, it sounds like you made some pretty good choices, and I mean, new opportunities is always good for everyone. When you got here, when you were walking on campus, when you were looking in the classroom and meeting the faculty, very talented faculty, what drew you to believe that this was a place for you? Like, what is it about Serra that makes it so special? Like, I know you talked about the lived experience, but like for the boys, like it's a very transformational experience. And
yeah, and I'm pausing intentionally because to see the boys grow over a 4-year period is a window into life in general, right? So obviously every day is a different day, but what I try to do in honoring all that is to recognize the world is a big place. Serra's perhaps a big school and perhaps a small school. And the boys are coming from so many different geographical areas, zip codes, or family backgrounds, family experiences, personal experiences, and all that stuff. But all that kind of comes together. Our boys are intelligent. They are themselves. They are on time. They are polite. They're normal, and it's the uniqueness of them as individuals, and the complexity of all 865 of them, whether that's a pep rally on Friday, or whether that's gathering for traditions, or going to class, or changing, classes every 75 minutes. To see how that existed on my visits up to Serra, and then to be part of that now, and to be responsible for that now as principal. It continues to identify that the need for the uniqueness of Serra's program as an all-boys high school here in the Peninsula area, San Mateo or San Francisco and all that stuff. I haven't seen it anywhere else. And where that becomes important now is no longer am I seeing it. I guess I'm partially responsible for ensuring its existence, enhancing it, so that when a parent is dropping their sons off in the morning, that their expectations of us is that they're giving us, as Serra, their son. And our expectation is that as they give us their son, we're gonna teach them. We're gonna be sure they're on time, they're doing their homework, they're happy, they're safe, they're secure, and their dreams are being realized, even though they might know what all those talents are. And that's a uniqueness, and that's a gift where the boys can be sometimes, sleepy or tired, and life happens and all this stuff. But as they come into the building as well, there literally isn't that like 3 to 5 seconds. They go from being somebody's son in the car to being a Padre. And
awesome.
I mean, because I try as best I can to stand out on 20th Street in the morning, because and I shared this with parents last night as we were doing the interviews for the class of 2026. There is like a 5-second process where the boys are getting their stuff together in the car. Mom might still be trying to take a selfie, or kiss them goodbye, or some of those sorts of things. And because everybody's in a pattern, mostly everybody arrives at the same time. And to see in those moments that transformation where they go from being, coming from their home life and they're coming into Serra life, they do like transform. And I think selfishly, I get to see that. And I think the teachers see that in the classrooms as well. And like all of us who are in our roles at school, the boys do own it and they take it on. And that's where the rewards are, because that's what we aim for, live for, want, and doing all that. So I think I rambled too much.
No, that's great.
On
I mean, it kind of spawned another question I have that I think is a good touch point. How does the program here at Serra, you're talking about, you just threw so many adjectives on these Padres, right? Like it's a balanced Padre, right? It's a student that is balanced. And I mean, how does this program challenge yet not overwhelm our students?
Yeah, it's ongoing, but it is sort of that understanding that in some ways, our students who are able to step into and grow in their academic abilities is balanced with the scheduledness and the routine of bells ring, you be in class, the teachers give clear expectations, they support student learning, they support creativity, they challenge when they know a student is capable of doing more, but it's not done in such a way of it not being satisfactory, is to say, what you're doing is great, and have you thought about this? Or
Right.
let's take it here. And then you balance that with the outside activity at Serra. So, when I talk about the academic profile, it is, what's the course of study and the expectations for a student who's coming in from the 8th grade from our admissions process. And I think we get them from at least 40 plus zip codes.
Oh, yeah.
And then how that's blended together over a period of time where the student has the opportunity to advance, where they are supported and monitored. So again, the really uniqueness of our program here is each of our boys are well known, either by by their teachers, the counseling staff, student support staff, student life, and student services. And in many ways, I think many of our padres who do their best in the classroom, whatever that is, whether they are an AB student and they are doing their best, or they are, a C student. There's nothing wrong in getting a C. If that's where you are, and if that's how you're responding to all that stuff, that's really good. And then there's a personal development that happens both in the classroom and outside the classroom, because our faculty and our staff are so involved in all aspects of the school. So, we have that very structured environment because the bell rings, everybody goes somewhere. But then I think the other part of Serra is that life that exists at 2:30, where the boys are able to be involved in the sports programs, or in the artistic programs, or in the club and activity programs, and they're together. Some of my earlier observations is when you put 30 boys in a classroom and they collectively take on both their own personalities and the personalities of their classmates and the classes, and they grow in a fraternity or the brotherhood and being a padre. And then you see that come out on the field where they go, in some ways, from being in a less structured environment in the classroom, but those norms, those expectations, and that professionalism, where it might be their math teacher who is holding them accountable for doing some very complex equations, or their theology teacher who is helping them understand a theological concept or philosophical concept, or English teachers are teaching our boys how to write and read and critical think and all that stuff. And then those same adults are outside, and they are shifting their own kind of professionalism and getting in on the coaching side, or on the stage, or
the club,
all in the clubs,
moderators. I think that's interesting. That was actually one of my questions. We skipped ahead with good content, but mentorship, right? I mean,
Sure.
our faculty, and they're mentors to these boys, and I think the independent connections that they make with the students really, I mean, it enhances their experience just in terms of learning, but also in self-esteem and in so many other areas of the whole child.
Absolutely.
Or whole young man, adolescent.
the whole person. So yeah, I think so. One of my other catchphrases is, the adults on campus, are here to help the boys become people, both of gentlemen and scholars, right? So it is that the mentorship, the leadership, the looking up to the adults on campus. Our boys recognize that. It's my own thoughts on this. I think we live in an age and a time where there is a level of anonymity that exists in the world because of the advances we're making in society in general. You can call that the digital footprint or how we're moving along. I think at Serra, in this environment, that's still there and true. But it's those personal relationships that the boys form and that the adults form with the students, that we pull them out of the isolation of the digital world, and we get them hands-on and physically involved and mentally involved and articulating all that stuff. That's part of the secret sauce, or that's part of that lived experience, right? And so watching that happen day in and day out, and the tremendous sacrifices of time, talent, and energy that both the adults give, again, everybody involved in running Serra.
Absolutely.
And how the boys respond to that. I think our Padres respond best when our teachers are being most authentic. I think the boys are really good at testing boundaries, which is what they should do because it's normal, and then how our teachers and the adults on campus are stepping into their roles as both the adult and the mentor, and they're holding the boys accountable. My thoughts or theories is that there's an authenticity that exists within the adult population, and teenage boys crave that. They need, it's not so much authoritative or authoritarian, but those positive role models which will affirm and support what they're doing is good and how to keep growing so that they can, run faster or play better, right, or and just be good people. And so our students are very forgiving when adults have bad days. The adults are very forgiving when the boys are having a bad day because we're known, right? I mean, it's those
interpersonal relationships. Right?
Yeah, it's that Serra relationship where, again, humorously, people read the room really quick, and they know that it's going to be either a good day or not a good day, and people sort of respond to all that. But the teacher, I think, in their professionalism, know how to respond to authenticity, and they know how to read our boys, and the boys know how to read their teachers. So again, sometimes of the year when things are running late, everybody's tired the next day, and everybody gets it. But also they recognize, in the timelines and the professionalism and, and all the other stuff, yes, we're pushing each other hard because, it's in the semester or there are other things happening. So I would say maybe, Amy, to capture your words a little bit, the Serra relationship becomes part of that lived experience, and it grows over time so that our teachers who are involved in the courses of study, our freshman teachers have just a really interesting job of just taking all this clay, of all the boys and bringing them in together. And we're both laughing because we see that at the beginning of the year, but they were so good at what they do.
Amazing.
That the freshman experience, which begins to set the foundations for all that. What does it mean to be in the brotherhood? Inclusion, compassion, integrity, respect, faithful service, men for others, a padre, and all that stuff. They are so good at what they do that they lay the foundation for all that. And then that just gets built upon every year. So I think in the stability of what we have here in the adults on campus, they are, again, it becomes second nature because it's a lived lifestyle. And that lived lifestyle is also that real experience, which then transforms that to no matter what the schedule is or the platform is, it's that same level of like authenticity. Mm-hmm. And relationship or authenticity in relationships when it comes to our Padres and the adults on campus, I think is part of that secret experience that once they're in, they see it. It's helping them understand that this has been going on for so long, and it's part of our normal life, that we're still, and I think I'm one of them as well, still struggling to articulate it in a very nice soundbite package.
Right, that'd be great. That's my job. That's my struggle.
But hopefully this podcast will take care of all that. And
no, it's very true. I mean, I definitely think that Serra, and I know Rosie, our producer over here. I mean, you've seen it too. She doesn't even have children yet, and it's it's a family. It's a true family, and it's not something that you can really identify. Or in terms, it's hard to describe in words because it's feeling. It's a lot of feeling, and it's interpersonal relationships. It's a faculty with tremendous talent that, I mean, I've long said as a parent of a junior, it's like, you literally pull the curtain every day of class, and they have these amazing lesson plans that engage the student and really, I mean, some of the topics at my dinner table, I feel quite stupid half the time because I'm like, oh yeah, I learned that. But most of the time I can wing it. But it's amazing what these boys are being taught. And then to also have that level of connection, and authentic relationship with their mentor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's, so like walking the hallways and just hearing the interactions and the conversations and the topics happening where, depending on where you are in the building, there are conversations happening in multiple languages about culture, ethnicities, and or world events. In theology and social studies, there are just a blended combination of issues, which are historical facts. There's the application of that. There are real world events. Or in math and science, they're taking these very complex ideas and these very real things as well. So the level of intellectual curiosity and the level of mentoring that is infused in the day and the life of Serra, it's a lot of work for the boys, for homework and learning, and for the teachers for prepping it as well. But I don't think that they would have it any other way.
I'd agree.
And so, again, relationships, work ethic, clear expectations. Again, humorously, standing where I stand in the morning and you see the march of the boys in the morning who are getting pink slips for being late because teachers like, no, class has started.
It's accountability. It's a lifelong trait.
It's those little things, right? And that's different in some ways from a teacher recognizing the pattern's been interrupted, and how am I going to respond to the pattern being interrupted? Here's what I would mean. We also have situations when life happens, right? We're not immune from the realities of the world, and to see the gentleness of the teachers and of the adults when they're responding to the world effect or the life issues that our students are having, which is very different from the letter of the law. So again, that same example, you'll often walk down the hallway or, where I stand in the morning, which is outside the admin office, because if you stand there, you can see everything. I realize it's radio, so I have to or podcasting, so I have to explain it, in that U-shaped hallway. And you can see the expression on the boys' faces where, the teachers call me out and I'm welcome to it. Or you see the student walk in and I'll say, go to your class. And talk to your teacher, and those students never come back because the teacher recognizes, oh, wait a minute, the student is late, and you can tell by their facial expression or by their body language or by the change in pattern that there's something off, and the teacher is going to give the benefit of the doubt versus somebody who's genuinely late. You're like, no, there's lessons to learn here,
sure, and
we'll see you in the after school program. So I think that's part of, again, what our faculty have time to do, as well as to reflect on all that. Reflect on best practices. Reflect on what does it mean to be a teacher, an educator, a peer, a mentor, a leader,
role model,
all that stuff. Because, that's what makes us different. And that's where those things are, they're ingrained. And those things are also modeled for, our new teachers or new people who come on staff, or on site like me as well. And you just see there's a pride in all that sometimes you stand back and watch and sort of observe, and then you just incorporate, and the longevity of all that means it becomes more normal.
That's great. That's really wonderful. I mean, it's again, I think you are capturing with words the special sauce that we have trouble identifying sometimes, but that's wonderful. So, given all of this, so we've had, we did distance learning since you've been here, distance learning, hybrid learning, and now we're back on campus, in-person instruction. So grateful.
Thank God.
How is the semester going? I know last semester we had a very exciting year for various reasons in every single area of our interests and academics and sports and music. And so tell us how it's going this semester. Overall, it's going just amazing. Really, really well. Again, we're in second semester now, spring semester. But I think, how we started this year was the goal was to get everybody back on campus. There was just a ground roots effort for all of us to get the adults back at school, the boys back at school, and for life to for the activity at school to resume to a level that was expected, that Serra is known for, and to do it in such a way that ensured the health and safety and responsibility that we're known for as well. So how's it going? It's going great. I'll use the interviews I had last night with the class of 26 as an example. Serra's not immune from the realities of the world. What we are good at is taking those experiences and pivoting and absorbing that into the fiber
of our being. So to bring back 865 plus students, at the beginning of semesters, whether that was in the fall semester and now in the winter semester, and to see how seamless it was. Again, Amy, I don't know if you remember, as a mom and as an employee as well, these halls were empty and we missed everybody. And when we opened school in August, we went from a building of simply empty hallways and nothing happening to a pivot of everybody's back. And it was so seamless that I think we were all pleasantly surprised. We
were all standing there kind of waiting for the next big thing.
And our boys responded well. I mean, I was so proud of everybody's responsibility in that and everybody's role in that. And then at the same time, we continue to evaluate and monitor and progress what's happening so that the anxiety does not overwhelm people too much, though at the same time we articulate and we communicate what the changes are in the context of the traditions and the levels of excellence Serra is known for, how we've demonstrated that in really untested waters, and how we responded to all that to maintain in this real and lived experience what the traditions and what we were building on in the past. So again, to be where we are now in mid-January, we are dealing with the realities of life that's still happening and going on, but we're also working. Our boys are on time, teachers are on time, the programs are moving along. Seniors are working on the college acceptance letters, and college applications. Our juniors are doing their work, with all that. We're sending boys on trips. Athletically, things are happening. The spring play is happening. Our teachers are on time. We have incorporated the real and lived experience into the traditions here at Serra. And I think, on my side as principal, it's working really well. And there are still a few surprises along the way where somebody's still not on time for class. And I'm like, well, we'll see you.
And that will happen forever.
It's normal, right? And so I think that's great. I think, again, standing back a little bit as well and looking at it, we're also in a very reflective time. We've just finished our big strategic plan, as a school as a whole, and Dr. Thornton's office, has been, helping and managing all that with some really exciting things happening for the future. In my role as principal, we're also going through our accreditation process. And what the accreditation process is, we have to reflect and evaluate on a number of different categories of who we are. So our mission as a school, our governance and leadership, our academic programs, our student services, and where we're going in the future. Because self-reflection is good. It helps us highlight our strengths, and then it begins to kind of prioritize, identify, and get a sense of what we're doing next. So in a school of excellence that Serra is known for, then how do you take that excellence and keep moving it forward? So Semper Adelante, how are we going forward in a way that doesn't cause instability, but it does it in a way that kind of says, here's what's great about our school, here's what we're going to continue to monitor and implement so that we remain relevant, first of all, that we are responding to the needs of the community as they manifest themselves or as they become available. And also, how are we opening up Serra and making it available to families and to boys who want to be part of this lifestyle, who want to be part of that Padre experience, and to begin to say our biggest challenge in that, which I think is how we started off talking about it, we live it so we get it.
Right.
I've lived it for the last kind of 2.5 years, and I've said, everywhere I've been, there's no place like Serra, and it's true. It's not a soundbite, but then how do we take that experience, and how do we articulate it in a way that is not, in a way that's humble, in a way that's inviting, in a way that's inclusive, in a way that's supportive, because I think where we are in the world right now is there is a little bit of shift in priority, and it is an understanding that the uniqueness of Serra's program for people who are, 14 years old to 18 years old, it's a really delicate sacred and important time in the lives of young men. And what Serra has always done historically is to recognize that.
Right.
And we're good at it. And being good at it is not sounding arrogant. Being good at it is being confident in it. And so our confidence then says, how do we expand that confidence into something where we are proud of who we are, and we stand on the shoulders of giants and legacies and all the other stuff, but continue to be relevant so that when parents are looking at what they want for their sons, we talk about all of these things we talk about. So inclusion and respect, men of character who are academically ready and intellectually curious to meet those benchmarks and meet those milestones and to be the future. But to do that also in a way where when they look at themselves in the mirror, they can be proud of who they are, and they can be secure in knowing that as life unfolds, they're going to be fine because of the experiences they've had at Serra. I think that's what makes me most excited, a little bit nervous, and proud, because now we are writing Serra's next chapter. We are in our 76th or 77th year. And there's a lot of people who have knowledge of Serra. It's our job now, both in the daily operations and in planning, to ensure the stability of the school, to ensure its relevance, to ensure that families are aware of the uniqueness and specialness of Serra, and to provide those opportunities to both attract and retain students, and to attract and retain those adults who are here because they want to be part of this.
Right.
And boy, howdy, this is awesome, and so it's really, really exciting. And so that's my opportunity and that's my challenge, although it's not mine. I'm not arrogant enough to recognize it all rests on me, but to be part of that leadership and to be part of that team, that's what gets me up in the morning, and I think that's what gets most of us up in the morning, even when it's been an 18-hour day and we hit restart.
Well, I think that's fantastic, and I'm really glad you brought that up. And I something that came to mind as you were talking is just, one thing, a word that we didn't use that we use every single day, but we didn't in this podcast, is community. Our community, our students are enthusiastic; they want to be here. Our parent community has been incredibly supportive. I mean, always, but especially lately. I mean, this first semester, I've never seen so many excited, involved, connected, group of parents and guardians and supporters. It's been really a wonderful thing to see. So
I love our parents. I love our families. I love our community, and to see those moments of jubilation and celebration, but also to see their stewardship, their involvement. Serra cannot exist without the community and dynamic of it. Recognizing that our families bring uniqueness to us, that they want to be part of this experience as well, right? I think in some ways for some families, the challenge is how they can fit into the Serra network, right? And you were saying about how the year started. This year, especially for the freshmen and sophomores, their sons haven't had all those experiences, though we're getting back to doing a lot more of that. But parents aren't as well. And our parents and the family unit, to be included in the life of the school, really makes it fun. And families want to belong to a community that is delightful and life-giving. So we see parents on the street, in the morning, or at the events or the games, and they are extremely appreciative, especially in the current situations, of how Serra is responding and meeting the needs of the boys. And we're balancing that with the realities of the world, so that every step Serra makes is a step in the positive direction, and that we're moving forward and not moving backwards, and that we do that in a way that's not cavalier, but we do that in a way that fits in with who Serra is, what Serra is, and what Serra will become, and the level of trust that our parent community have for Serra and those involved in its operations and doing. It's really, really humbling to hear random people come up and say, "Thank you for what you're doing for my son. It is more than we ever hoped for or expected." and thank you as you lead all of us through this current time, because this wasn't taught to us in graduate school.
Right. Oh, yeah, of course not. I mean, and I think you summed it all up, really, really nicely. And I think we'll end on that high note because it's true. I mean, it's just wonderful that we have the support that we have, and it's wonderful we have the leadership that we have. So I just want to thank you so much for your insight and your time, Principal McGraw. I really appreciate it. And we're excited to bring you on frequently so that we can find out what's going on here at Serra. And then also we're hoping to interview some of the department heads, some teachers, some faculty, and just kind of let people know, what that we are Serra, and this is what we have here. So I think it's great. So I appreciate your time.
And absolutely, and thank you for being so patient for both you and Rosie as I complete my first podcast ever.
Making history once
making
again.
History, Sarah's groundbreaking, and for all you guys do as well to kind of get that message out there. I've been around, different places at different times. There's uniqueness to Serra that always brings a smile on my face, and I'm just humbled and honored to be part of it, because it's great. It's awesome. Actually. Yeah.
Well, thank you again for your time, and go Padres.
Go Padres.